Hey guys, welcome to Coronavirus with George. As always, my disclaimer, I'm not an expert, so if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. So here's the numbers that we have to look at today, and before I dig into these, I want to show you that spreadsheet I had mentioned on the last video. So I made this spreadsheet. What I did is I took the number of cases, and this is for the US only, and I took the cases from March 1st to March 15th, 16th, and I plugged them in here, and then I found the percent change every day. So this went from 65 to 85 from March, I guess it is March 1st, sorry, March 1st to March 2nd, and the change was 20, right? So then I did 20 divided by 65 times 100, and that gives me this as a percent, which is 30.8%. And I did that for about 15 days, and then coming down here, the average was 33.2. And if you don't know, 33% increase is more than doubling every 3 days, right? It's 33% each day, right? The cases go up 33% each day. So over 3 days, that would actually be more than double, right? And if we could find some nice round numbers, we could look at how that, well, actually, we won't use this side. I'll talk about that over here. But that means more than doubling because you don't add percentages together, it's compounded, right? So if we get 33% new cases today, then starting tomorrow, those people might be spreading the virus. It actually takes a few days, but the numbers are always delayed, but it's the reported numbers, and so the effect shows in there. All right, so now what I did is I took that 33.2% and I used it to project out what I thought the numbers might be. Okay, and I plugged it into here. And then I started adding the actual numbers every day. And sometimes they would be the same, sometimes they would go ahead. And you notice at some point we got about a day ahead of what my predictions were, right? So this was March 21st, March 22nd, we were about a day ahead, March 23rd. Then it started to slow. Notice this number, right? So this was the big number where you got ahead by a day, right? These 2 days. And then it starts to slow here, 25%, right? Going from 43 to 54,000 cases. And then going from 54 to 68. So these are only 25% increase. Sorry, this isn't a car payment. And again, 25% here. And then here, you see where the actual numbers fall back to equal to the prediction, right? And now, yesterday, they actually fall behind the prediction. And that's because the rate of increase, the percentage of new cases each day, has gotten less. So this is probably, this is a good sign for the United States, right? This was an average day. This was about average, but here it starts to be significantly lower. And so this is where we're starting to see that curve even off, right? Where the number of new cases might be number-wise more, but as a percentage of the people out there infecting people, it's less. And so this is probably an effect of the social distancing. People aren't around each other as much, and so we see less people spreading the virus. So 18.7 today, and we'll keep an eye on that number as time goes on. If it continued with the predicted, my little predicted model, which is really simple, it's just, plug in a starting number and then increase it by 33% each day. Nothing fancy about this. We would get to 1 million cases in the U.S. on April 4th, and then over 2 million on April 7th, and so on. You can see 4 million by April 9th, and so on. So that's how this works, doubling every 3 days, give or take, less than 3 days, really. But it looks like it's actually slowed. And so that means, right, if we go to 18%, we're looking at doubling at, well, there's a rule in math. It's real simple. It's called the rule of 72. If you want to see how fast something doubles, because you can't just say if it increases 10%, you can't say it takes 10 days because it's compounded, as I said before, right? Every time you add 10%, you got more people spreading it. So you use the rule of 72. So if something's increasing at 10%, how many times does 10 go into 72? About 7. So it's going to take about 7 days to double. 18, right? How many times does 18 go into 72? Well, 18, 36, 54, 70. Does it go into 72 exactly? Yeah, it does. So kind of odd. So 18 goes into 72. It's almost 19, but about 4 times. So at this rate, you expect doubling every 4 days. Now at 123, we could round this to 125. The numbers only have to double 3 times to get to 1 million, right? 125,000. If you double that, you get to 250,000. If you double that, you get to 500,000. If you double that, you get to a million. So double 3 times, right? So if it's taking 4 days to double, we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4 days we would expect to be at 250. 1, 2, 3, 4 days we expect to be at 500,000. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 4 days to a million, so right about April 9th. Now, what I think is, or what I hope, is that it'll keep going down, because you notice it's dropping 25, 21, 18. And so if the number gets much lower, then it might be late April before we get to a million cases. But then the number could also go back up if we have outbreaks in other cities that aren't completely, in sort of a lockdown state like New York and Los Angeles are. So, we got to be careful with that. All right, so that's kind of the prediction. A million cases might be closer to here based on just today's percent change, or yesterday's, I should say. Okay. I do have a graph for number of deaths also, which, of course, is kind of sad. And if we look at the actual number, we don't want to use today's number because it's changing still, right? The U.S. reports their numbers throughout the day, so this number and this number, these will change. But yesterday, we were at 2,221 people had died in the U.S. from this virus. So let's go here. What's yesterday? That would be the 27th, or 28th, sorry. Yesterday's the 28th. So I seem to have missed a few days in here, didn't I? Oh, this is the 29th, the 19th instead of the 29th. Oops, no wonder that didn't make sense. And that's actually today, isn't it? Okay, so 29th. So here we go. 29th would have been here, so here would be yesterday at 2221. Is that the number? Yeah, so the good news is it's less than predicted. The bad news is it's still more than 0, of course. But if this increases at that slower rate I talked to, then we might expect to get to 4, 8, 16,000 by around April 9th. All right, so that's the U.S. Now let's go over these numbers here. So total cases, 704,000 in the world. So again, we'll be at a million soon. What did we calculate yesterday? It's doubling in the world about every 6 days. So we're, let's say, 3-4 days away from a million. So today's March 29th. Where's my calendar? I can never find things on Apple. So maybe around April 1st, April 2nd. Let's say April 2nd, give or take. We might hit a million cases. Okay, so let's go back to the countries. U.S. is at, is this yesterday or today? No, it's yesterday. U.S. is at 132,000. Italy's at 97. I waited today till Italy reported their numbers before starting my video so that I could have those there. 5,000 cases, not good, but there is good news for Italy if you've been watching. It's been 5,000 cases for several days now. Obviously, you want 0 cases, but the good thing is that Italy had been higher in terms of new cases each day. And so their peak was, I think, 9,000 or 10,000. I don't know the number off the top of my head. But it's been less new cases than the peak, which means their quarantine is having some effect. And it's been 5,000 for several days now, 5 or 6, give or take, every day. Let's check yesterday to see what that was. So yesterday was 5,900, today's 5,200. So it's actually even lower than yesterday. So as long as it's staying the same for a few days, that sort of indicates that they're having an effect, and then maybe coming down after that. So obviously things aren't good there, but they're getting better. They can kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel. Spain, I think Spain does their numbers throughout the day, so this may not be the final number for today. Yesterday, I think they had 7,500. Yeah, so yesterday Spain had 7,500. Hopefully this is the final number for today. If it does, that might be a good sign for Spain. They'll still pass China today or tomorrow, but they may have leveled off their curve also. Let's see, we got Germany, Iran, France reports theirs all at once too. They haven't come in yet. I did mention Turkey yesterday because You notice if you see higher numbers here than the countries above it, right? That means it's a higher percentage of their population, right? Obviously, South Korea is ridiculously low because they've been testing and testing and testing and finding the people. And whoever has the virus, they quarantine them or isolate them, whatever the proper word is. And so that's why they're staying on top of it. Even though it's still like 100 a day, it's been that for weeks now in South Korea. But they're doing a lot better than many other countries. So Turkey will pass South Korea. They'll probably pass some of these three little countries that are between France and Germany, geographically, not numbers wise. I predict Turkey will come up past those because they have. If you do this number, 1815 divided by whatever this was yesterday, 7,500, right? If we subtract, let's see what it is, right? 18. So 7,402, and then so this is today's number. We could just so 1815 divided by 7402, you would get something like about what's that? 1800 over 74 would be about 25%. Does that come out right? So yeah, it seems to be a little higher than some of these other ones, right? This is 1100 out of it was 9,000 yesterday, so that's probably like 12 or 13, 14%, something like that. So it's a little slower in these countries, whereas Turkey seems to be coming up. Maybe they haven't quarantined yet and they're just experiencing their first outbreak. Let's see, they got their first case on March 9th. It's right over here, right? So some countries, I think, that haven't had it yet, and then it pops up soon and they're not ready for it. And so you may see them come up to the top 10, sadly. Let's see what else. Britain is moving up. I believe they're in now like a shelter in place also. They started theirs a little later, so you might see them move up the list too. So those are basically the numbers for today.